Good afternoon everyone. Today we will discuss about the rest of the part of the breathing and exchange of gases. Okay. So previous day we learn about the volume, different types of the volume. Today we will know the capacity. Okay. Types of capacity. How many types of capacities are there? That is inspiratory capacity. Here is also inspiratory, expiratory, expiratory, next functional residual, FRC, inspiratory capacity IC, expiratory EC, functional residual capacity. FRC, and another one vital capacity, that is VC, and another total lung capacity. Okay, so the types of capacity 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First one inspiratory capacity, second one expiratory capacity, then functional residual capacity, vital capacity, and total lung capacity. So let's see what is the definition of these capacities. Okay, so inspiratory capacity means the total volume of air a person can inspire after a normal expiration. Okay, so after a normal exhalation, the amount of the air inhaled by a human, this is the inspiratory cap. How much amount of the air they can inhale after one expiration, this is the inspiratory capacity. Okay, it includes tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. Okay, so inspiratory capacity means IC equal to tidal volume, obviously TV plus ERV, expiratory reserve volume. Next one EC means expiratory capacity means total volume of air a person can expire after a normal inspiration. After inhalation, how much air you can exhale. Okay, this is the inspiratory capacity. And TV equal to ERV. So this one is also EC equal to TV equal to, this one is IRV and this one is ERV. Next one functional residual capacity, volume of air that will remain the lungs after a normal expiration. I have already told in the first that all airs or the total amount of airs never you can exhale. Some there is no vacuum space is present, some air must be present in your lungs. So the remaining part of the air that present in your lungs, that one is the functional residual capacity. Okay, this is the ERV plus RV. FRC means ERV plus RV. Next one vital capacity, the maximum volume of air a person can breathe in after a forceful expiration. This includes ERV, TV and IRV, or the maximum volume of air person can breathe out after a forceful inspiration. So after a forceful expiration, the volume of the air a man can breathe, that is vital capacity. Okay, this ERV, TV, VC equal to all this ERV, IRV plus TV, the volume of the air they can inspire. Okay, and TV, ERV. These three total is known as the VC. Next one total lung capacity. Lung capacity means all this total lung capacity, TLC means The total volume of air accommodated in the lungs at the end of the forceful inspiration, that includes RV, ERV, TV and IRV. All these things, RV, IRV, TV and ERV. The amount of the air that present in your lungs. Simple. All these things are TLC. Okay, complete. Now, exchange of gases. How the gases exchange inside your lungs to body cells and body cells to the lungs. You know that some circulation part is also blood is helps in this transportation. Alveoli is the primary site of exchange of gases. Alveolar membrane act as a diffusion membrane. So this membrane helps the exchange of the gases. Exchange of gases also occurs between blood and tissues. Blood to tissue, tissue to blood, then alveoli and lungs. Okay. O2 and CO2 are exchanged in this site. Simple diffusion mainly based on the pressure and concentration. You know that pressure ingredient is present. Diffusion occurs higher concentration to lower concentration. Solubility of the gases as well as thickness of the membranes involved in the diffusion are also some important factors that can affect the rate of the diffusion. Pressure contributed by an individual gas in the mixture of gases is called partial pressure and is represented as PO2 for oxygen and PCO2 for carbon dioxide. Partial pressure of oxygen is called PO2. Partial pressure of carbon dioxide is known as the PCO2. Partial pressure of these two gases in the atmosphere air and two sides of diffusion are given in table 17.1, and in the end two sides of the diffusion are table, and in the figure there is a table is present where the partial pressure, atmospheric pressure, alveoli. This table is very important because the short question is coming from that table. Okay, and the data given the table clearly indicates the concentration gradient of oxygen from alveoli to blood and blood to tissues. Similarly, a gradient of pressure CO2 is opposite direction from tissue to blood and blood to alveoli. You know that alveolar air, PO2 in the alveoli, partial pressure in the alveoli, that is 140, and partial pressure in the alveoli, that is carbon dioxide, only 40. Okay, 140 and only 40. And then the opposite direction from tissue to blood and blood to alveoli. As the solubility of CO2 is 20 to 25 times higher than the O2, so CO2, the solubility of CO2 how much higher than the O2? 25 to 20 to 25 times fast. CO2 is most dangerous, so that's why it mixes very well with our bloods. An amount of CO2 that diffuse through the diffusion membrane per unit difference in the partial pressure. The diffusion membrane is made up of three layers, namely thin squamous epithelium of alveoli, endothelium of alveoli, and basement substance between them. Okay, so the three membrane layer, alveoli membrane made by the three membrane, squamous epithelium, inner side endothelium, and another in between them. Okay, so three membrane layer of the alveoli. However, total thickness is much less than a millimeter. Therefore, all the factors in our body are favorable for diffusion of O2, alveoli to tissue and tissue to alveoli. So, this membrane helps in the diffusion exchange of gases. Transport of gases. So, the exchanges occur. How transport reach to different parts of the body? Obviously, through the blood. Blood is the medium of the transport O2 and CO2. About 90% of O2 is transported by RBC in the blood. Obviously, the RBC helps in the transportation of the blood. The remaining 3% of O2 is carried in the dissolved state through the plasma. Nearby 20 to 25% of CO2 is transported by RBC, whereas 70% of it carries at the bicarbonate. 7% of CO2 is carried in dissolved state through the plasma. Okay. Next, transport of oxygen. How transport of, and this graph is very much important. Okay, oxygen dissolve curve, dissociation curve. This one is just looking like that, oxygen dissociation curve. Hemoglobin is a red colored iron containing pigment present in the RBC. All you know that hemoglobin, that is heme protein that is made by the iron, so that's why our blood is red in color. O2 can bind with the hemoglobin. Obviously the O2 that transported all the parts of our body, actually it cannot directly transported through the blood, it mixed with the hemoglobin and made the oxyhemoglobin. Then this oxyhemoglobin reached to the every parts of the body. The O2 bind with the hemoglobin is a reserved manner to form oxyhemoglobin. Each hemoglobin molecule can carry a maximum 4 molecule of O2. Okay, so one hemoglobin molecule carries 4 oxygen molecule. Okay, binding of oxygen with the hemoglobin is primarily related to the partial pressure of the O2. Partial pressure of CO2, hydrogen ion concentration and temperature are the other factors which can interface with this binding. A sigmoid curve is obtained when percentage saturation of hemoglobin with O2 is plotted against the partial oxygen. This curve is called the oxygen dissociation curve and highly useful in studying the effect of the factors like PCO2. H plus concentration on binding of O2 with hemoglobin in the alveoli where there is the high partial oxygen, low partial carbon dioxide, lesser H plus concentration and lower temperature. The factors are all favorable for the formation of oxyhemoglobin. Whereas in the tissues where low partial oxygen, high partial carbon dioxide, high H plus concentration and higher temperature exist, the conditions are favorable for dissociation of oxygen from the oxyhemoglobin. This clearly indicates that O2 gets bound to hemoglobin in the lung surface and get dissociated with the tissue. Every 100 ml of oxygen blood can deliver 5 ml of O2. Okay, so 100 ml of oxygenated blood carry 5 ml of the oxygen. Okay, and O2 that tissue under the normal physiological condition. Transport of carbon dioxide, so oxygen is transported as the oxyhemoglobin form, then one hemoglobin that contain 4 oxygen, then the concentration of H plus ion, then they binding with the O2 and then they binding with the tissues dissociated with the hemoglobin. Okay, this is the process of the transport of oxygen. How the carbon dioxide transported? Carbon dioxide is carried by hemoglobin. This is also carried by the hemoglobin as the form of the carboxyhemoglobin, carbaminohemoglobin. Okay, carbaminohemoglobin about 20 to 25%. You know that is the 20 to 25% carbon dioxide mixes with the blood. This binding is related to the partial pressure of CO2. Partial pressure of oxygen is a major factor which could affect the binding. When partial CO2 is high and partial PO2 is low, as in the tissue, more binding of carbon dioxide is, whereas obviously you know that binding when occurs, so the binding occurs when the concentration is high. If the oxygen concentration is high, they never affect the hemoglobin by binding with the CO2, they never allow. But when the oxygen pressure is low, the carbon dioxide easily bind with the hemoglobin and form the carbaminohemoglobin. This is very bad. When the partial carbon dioxide is low and partial O2 is high in the alveoli, dissociation of carbon dioxide from carbaminohemoglobin takes place. CO2 which is bind to hemoglobin from the tissues delivered to the alveoli. RBC contain a very high concentration of the enzymes carbamine hydrase and carbonic anhydrase and minute quantities of same present in the plasma too. This enzyme facilitates the following reaction in the both direction. Okay, so which enzyme helps in the formation of the carbaminohemoglobin? That is carbonic anhydrase. Okay, so how which reaction occurs when carbon dioxide bind with the hemoglobin? That is CO2 plus H2O. Then carbonic anhydrase. That is H2CO3. Then carbonic anhydrase. then form HCO3 minus plus H plus, hydrogen ion dissociated. Okay. At the tissue site where partial pressure of CO2 is high and due to the catabolism, CO2 diffuse into the blood and forms HCO3 minus and H plus. At the alveolar site where partial oxygen carbon dioxide is low, the reaction proceeds in the opposite direction, leading to the formation of CO2 and H2O. Thus, CO2 trapped as the bicarbonate at the tissue level and transported as the bicarbonate form. Okay, and every 100 ml of deoxygenated blood deliver approximately 5 ml of CO2 to the alveoli. So 100 ml of oxygenated blood form 5 ml of oxygen, and 100 ml of carbon dioxide rich blood contain 4 ml of carbon dioxide. Okay, 1 ml, just less. Regulation of respiration. Human beings have a significant ability to maintain and moderate the respiratory rhythm. Obviously, respiratory rhythm that is occurs to suit the demands of the body tissue. Body tissue, when they needed oxygen more, you can fast breathe, and otherwise you can normal breathing occurs. This is done by the neural system. Obviously, the breathing is also controlled. Everything that is controlled by our neural brain. A specialist center present in the medulla region of the brain called respiratory rhythm center, primarily responsible for this regulation. Okay, respiratory rhythm center. Another center present in the pons region, so medulla oblongata and pons region mainly control our respiration. Okay, the center of pons region of the brain called pneumotaxic center can moderate the function of respiratory rhythm center. Neural signal from the center can reduce the duration of inspiration and thereby alter the respiratory rate. A chemosensitive area is situated adjacent to the rhythm center, which is highly sensitive to CO2 and hydrogen ions. Increase these substances can activate this center, and which can signal the rhythm substances can be eliminated. Receptor associated with aortic arch and carotid artery. So aortic arch and carotid artery also can recognize changes in CO2 and H plus concentration and send necessary signals to the rhythm center for the remedial actions. The role of oxygen in the regulation of the respiratory rhythm is quite insignificant. Okay, so mainly our neural system, pons and medulla region, and the aortic arch and coronary artery helps in the control the or regulate the respiration. This is very most important question, how the regulation is controlled by the neural system or how the respiration is controlled. Okay, disorders of respiratory system. Asthma is the difficulty of breathing, some suffering from the breathing problem causing wheezing or inflammation, bronchi and bronchioles. This is affected actually bronchi and bronchioles. Emphysema is the chronic disorder in which alveolar walls are damaged due to where respiratory surface is decreased. One of the major causes of this, cigarette smoking, emphysema. And another, occupational respiratory disorder, that is industry, especially those involve grinding or stone breaking. Okay, so sometime you know that labor, they break the stone, they suffering from the occupational respiratory disorders. So much dust, so they always take this dust with their breathing system, so obviously they is normal, they suffering from the breathing problem. Defense mechanism of the body cannot fully cope up with the situation. Long exposure can give rise to inflammation leading to fibrosis and thus causing serious lungs damage. Workers in such industries should wear protective mask. Okay, so this chapter is completed. Next day we will move to our next chapter. Everyone spend your puja vacation very well. Happy puja everyone. Bye everyone.